Hello, request. Hello.
We are hearing, sir.
Yeah. Can anybody confirm that the sound is okay? Yeah.
Sound is okay, Praveen.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
okay.
Sound
Thank
is
you.
very clear.
Sound is good.
Let me start.
Sound is okay, sir. Sound is okay.
Sound is okay, and now the YouTube. Okay. Now the YouTube live is okay. Please.
Yes, I can see it very clear on YouTube.
Please mute your mic. Request everyone to please mute your mic. Requested everyone to please mute your mic. So now time is 11:30 a.m. and it is my proud privileges to welcome all of you on behalf of Sanyukt Bhartiya Association Sabha. So I would like to introduce our moderator, today's moderator, Madam Sudeepa Roy Mitra, and our child Tanmay Pilla. He is a head boy of Indian Language School. They are the moderator for the today's session. So I am handing over this session to Madam Sudeepa Roy Mitra and Tanmay Pilla. Please welcome them, and they are going to run the show as a moderator for the today's webinar. Today's people webinar from the real life hero, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. So please welcome, Madam. Now the platform is yours. Hello. Hello. Madam, please unmute your mic.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Tanmay, if you would please start the proceedings.
A very good morning to everyone gathered here for today's Zoom webinar by Sanyukt Bhartiya Association with Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. I am Tanmay Pilla, head boy of Indian Language School, Lagos, Nigeria. I have been studying at ILS for about 14 years, and it is my honor to be one of the moderators for today's session, along with Mrs. Sudeepa Roy Mitra. And I hope all of you have a great and informative session today.
Good morning. I am Sudeepa Roy Mitra, your moderator, and a very warm welcome to the webinar organized by Sabha. We are gathered here to watch and listen to the real life hero, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk.
Before we begin, I would like to request all the participants to follow a few rules. All participants should keep their cameras switched off and keep their microphones muted for better connectivity. The language of communication is English, and no participant should directly ask questions. Questions can be asked through the chat. If any student has a question, they can put it through the chat to me, Tanmay, and all other participants, they may send their questions to Mrs. Sudeepa Mitra. And again, I would request everyone not to directly ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanmay. This special event has been organized by the members of Sabha, comprising of Assamese Samaj President, Mr. Deepak Kalita, Bhojpuri Samaj, Mr. Devesh Mishra, Lagos Bongyo Porishad, Mr. Anupam Ghoshal, Gujarati Samaj, Mr. Shailesh Tanna, Maharashtra Mandal, Mr. Girish Jaikar, Telugu Samaj, Mr. Loknath Reddy, Mr. Tamil Samaj, Mr. Sivakumar Velappan, Rajasthani Samaj, Chief Dr. J.C. Duggar, Odia Samaj, Mr. Ashok Nayak, Shani Punjab Samaj, Mr. Narendra Chuk, Sindhi Samaj and the Sabha mentor, Chief Anil Gopani, Tulukota Samaj, Mr. Chittaranjan Bagera, Jain Samaj, Mr. Rohit Shah, Indian Muslim Samaj, Mr. Javed Ali, Ubhash, Mr. Ravi Tosh Shukla, Kannad Samaj, Dr. Dinkar Raman, Kerala Samaj, Mr. Ashok Joseph, Indo-ICARE Foundation Trustee, Mr. Manohar Kabra, Afro-Asian Initiative for Development, and also the Rotary Club of Lagos Island member, Mr. Sanjay Srivastava, Art of Living, Mr. Akshay Jain, Gift of Life, Mr. Anant Rao, Rotary Club of Lagos, Palm Grove Estate, Mrs. Chandra Naloda, Swarat Yatra, Mrs. Pallavi Sankhe, Harmony, Mr. Raju Shetty, Swati, Mr. Srinivas Joshi, HHS, Mr. Pushkraj Mughal, Seva International, Mr. Bikas Kane. Sabha mentors are Mr. Shiva Subramanian, Mr. Dinesh Rati. We are also graced on this occasion by our Deputy High Commissioner, Sri Surendra, ICA President, Chief Sanjay Jain, IPF President, Mr. Atul Khetri, IWA President, Mrs. Geetika Tandon, ILS Principal, Mrs. Sonali Gupta, leaders of the corporate houses, and of course, our audience comprising of the students, alumni, and the members of Indian Committee. We welcome you all.
Before we proceed, I would like to repeat the rules once again. Please, I request all participants should keep their cameras switched off, and please keep your mics on mute. And no participant should be directly asking questions, and they can be put through the chat. For students, you can message me, Tanmay, and for other participants, please message Mrs. Mitra if you have any questions. Thank you.
I now call upon Mr. Ramesh Biswal to give his welcome speech.
Sir,
Ramesh
please
ji.
unmute yourself.
Your mic is muted. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Let's wait for another 2 minutes to 3 minutes. The guest speaker is about to join. So once he joins, so that we can address. In the meantime, we can just be patient waiting for the guest speaker, please.
Requesting admin that he should allow, many people are requesting to join, so host should allow them or accept their joining request.
No issue.
Sir, for your kind information, this meeting is open for all. There is nobody is waiting here. It is a entry. It is enabled. So there is no problem. Nobody is waiting. Due to congestion, it may be some little time is required to come here, but I don't think that there is any waiting.
Guest speaker has joined. Guest speaker has joined.
Yeah.
Hello.
No, not.
Guest speaker has joined a long time back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, guest speaker is already there. We can see him.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Sorry, my apology. I did not notice that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to all the participants in the Sabha platforms. I have the privilege to welcome you all to Sabha platforms for this people's webinar, that is Sabha initiative, which is our 13th webinar conducted by Sabha in a row from the April 23rd. So all are welcome. On behalf of Sabha, let me welcome His Excellency, the Indian High Commission to Nigeria, Sri Abhay Thakurji, represented by the Deputy High Commissioner to India in Nigeria, Sri VSLD Surendranji. And also, I welcome all the Indian High Commission officials in Abuja and also in Lagos, including the first secretary, Mr. Rachit Rawatji. You are welcome, sirs. Let me welcome our guest speaker, the real-time hero, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. You are welcome, sir. We are waiting to hear from you, sir. Thank you, sir. Let me welcome once again. The name has been read by our moderators, all our Sabha leaders, and all our in-house members. The president of all Indian Samajams, starting with all the Samajams and Indian origins. I don't want to take their names. We'll hear from Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. So all our Sabha leaders and Sabha members from each Samajams and each Samaj presidents and their members are welcome to this platform, sirs. And also all organizations of Indian origin, they are welcome to the platform of Sabha for this webinar. Let me welcome our mentors, Mr. Shiva Subramaniam, Chief Anil Gopwani-ji, Mr. Dinesh Rathi-ji, to this platform, sirs. Sabha also welcomes the President of Indian Cultural Associations, Chief Sanjay Jain, and its executive committee members and all its members. Mr. Atul Khetri, the IPF President, you are welcome, sir, along with all your executive members and all the IPF members to these platforms. Madam Gitika Tandon from IWA, you are the President, Madam. You are welcome along with all your executive committee and other members to these platforms. Sabha welcomes all the leaders and captains of the industries and corporate house to these platforms. And Sabha welcomes all the Indian community guests and participants from overseas. There are so many from overseas participants. So once again, I will welcome one and all to these platforms to hear from the real life hero, the green man, and the innovator, and the scientists, and the reformists, and what is the new normal, because everybody is talking the new normal. So what is the new normal in this COVID unprecedented on these crisis situations? Let all of us hear from the real hero what is the new normals for all of us in case of education, in case of culture, and in case of the nature. What are those things? Let's hear from him. Thank you, everybody. Once again, all are welcome to this platform. Thank you, madam. Over to the moderator, Madam Sudeepaji.
Thank you, Mr. Biswal, for your kind welcome address. I would like to now call upon the Deputy High Commissioner, Sri Surendra, on behalf of the Indian High Commission to give his opening remarks.
Sir, you are on mute, sir. Please unmute it, sir. Surendran, sir, please unmute.
Am I audible now, please?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Tanmay, and for introducing me, Madam Mitra, Rameshji, Praveendji, all the members of the Sabha and all the Indian community organizations, and above all, the guest of honor today, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, who has been such an inspiration to all of us. It's such a wonderful, it has been the inspiration for such a wonderful movie, and I am honored, and it's a privilege for me to join this platform and to hear the wise views and comments of Mr. Wangchuk, and also the comments of the other members of the esteemed Indian community in Nigeria. Well, I would first like to place on record my appreciation for the Indian community in Nigeria for organizing these various webinars. I think this is the 13th in the row of people's awareness. And I think during this period of lockdown, during this period of crisis, during this period of challenge, they've been able to generate a lot of interest and togetherness, and a lot of understanding and a bonding between all of us during these tough times. And I'm really honored to participate in all these webinars. And today's one is of special interest to me because we are able to meet such an inspiration like Mr. Wangchuk. And yes, culture and education and nature, all these have been impacted by COVID, and these are new unprecedented scenarios. And who else could we look forward to except people like Mr. Wangchuk, who have an open mind, and who have always been looking for new solutions in such times of crisis. So again, a very warm welcome to you all, and I now look forward to hear the views of Mr. Wangchuk and our other members. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion and sharing your valuable thoughts with us. I would now like to call upon Mr. Tarun Sangvi, the trustee of Indo Eye Care Foundation, to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Wangchuk.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me enjoy the pleasure of giving a very brief introduction of Mr. Wangchuk. Once you listen to the introduction, you will be looking forward more to hearing him in person. Mr. Wangchuk was born in the Trans-Himalayan region of Ladakh in Jammu and Kashmir, India. Though a mechanical engineer by education, he has been mostly working in the field of education reform for more than 27 years. In 1988, just after he finished his engineering studies, he founded SECMOL, Students, Educational and Cultural Movement of Ladakh, which aims to bring reforms in the government school systems in Ladakh. In 1994, he was instrumental in the launch of Operation New Hope, a triangular collaboration of the government, village community, and the civil society to bring reforms in the government school system. The program involved formation of village education committee to take ownership of state schools, training of teachers in child-friendly ways, and rewriting and publishing localized textbooks for Ladakhs. As a result, the pass percentage of 10th matriculation rose from a dismal 5% to 55% in the 7 years and 75% these days. The more revolutionary part of this SECMOL was that the students who still failed in their state exams, he founded SECMOL Alternative School campus near Leh, a special school where the admission criteria is failure in exams and grades. However, with the supportive and creative environment at the school, the so-called failures have excelled in their chosen field and risen to international acclaim as entrepreneurs, filmmakers, politicians, speakers, and so on. As an engineer, Mr. Wangchuk has been teaching innovation at the SECMOL Alternative School, where together with the students, he designed and built solar heated buildings that are low cost, made of earth and mud, but still maintain 15 degrees centigrade even when the external temperature is minus 15 degrees in Ladakh winters. His revolutionary invention has been the ice stupa. In order to solve the water crisis facing mountain regions due to climate change and fast melting glaciers, he invented the ice stupa artificial glacier, which stores the wasting steam waters in winter in the form of giant ice cones of stupas and releases the water in late spring as they melt, just when the farmers need water. Finally, a very small list of some major awards granted to Mr. Sunam Wangchuk. The most prestigious Ramon Magsaysay Award 2018, the GQ Men of the Year Award for Social Entrepreneur of the Year 2017 in India, the Rolex Award for Enterprise 2016 in the US, the Terra Award 2016 for World's Best Earth Buildings in Lyon, France, the UNESCO Chair for Earth Architecture for India in 2014, Real Heroes Award by CNN IBN Channel in 2008, Green Teacher Award by Sanctuary Asia Magazine in 2005, Ashoka Fellowship by Ashoka Innovators for the Public in 2002, Man of the Year by the Week Magazine in India 2001, and the Governor's Medal by the Jammu and Kashmir State Government in 1996. So this is Mr. Sunam Wangchuk for you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sangvi, for a nice introduction. And now it is my pleasure to invite our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings from the mountains of Ladakh to all of you, the community of Indian origin in Nigeria, and the dignitaries from the Indian High Commission. I'm really touched and very happy to be connecting to people of my country's origin in other countries like Nigeria. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Very well, sir. Very well.
Okay. So yes, I'm touched and thank you for thinking of me. And I'm really happy to be connecting, and hopefully sometime in better times, I'll connect with also. But today, it's thanks to digital technology that we can all gather together at such ease and share each other's lives. So as suggested, I'll share my thoughts on post-COVID scenario with nature, culture, and education. So the COVID phenomena that we are in the middle of, to me, is a mixed bag of developments. Of course, it is painful and difficult for people who are afflicted with this disease, and for the countries where the economy has been devastated. Yet at the same time, I think if we look at globally the planet as a whole, and not just humans, all beings on the planet, then it has affected only human beings, and it has actually positively affected many other living beings on this planet. So I see this as a kind of check mechanism of nature, a check mechanism when one species or one part of nature overgrows or over accelerates to the detriment of the rest of nature, then nature has different ways of setting equations again. So yes, human beings have been affected. Their development has been slowed down. But then I've come to think that wasn't our development over accelerated? Weren't we in a kind of a party atmosphere? You know, a party where you don't think of tomorrow, and then suddenly nature reminds that this is not the normal. You are in an accelerated, inebriated, or sort of, drunken state or drugged state. You have to normal. Hello. I hope you are able to hear me. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If they are not addressed to me, please mute.
Host to force mute.
Yes, I would like to request Mr. Sonam Wangchuk to just unmute his mic, because I have muted the all mic to everyone.
Good, I have. Okay. So I was saying that the human growth and development was a bit over accelerated, in that when we say, our growth is 8% or 10% or 12% and so on, we only speak of human beings, the human species alone. We don't speak of all the other living beings, plants and animals. Actually, in the last 50 years, when human beings saw amazing growth, other beings, it was a devastation. According to WWF, Worldwide Fund for Nature, their report says that from 1972 to 2012, 40 years, 52% of the world's wildlife population is wiped out. 52% of their survival is wiped out, and we don't even talk about that. We only talk about 6% growth or 8% growth or 7% growth. But our human growth has caused death and destruction to 52% of the wildlife. And as Indians with very profound philosophies that believes in all living beings and not human beings, we should be concerned if only human beings have a party and other beings are plundered and eliminated, terminated. Similar is the case with our forest, the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom also has been evaporated. 50% or so have been, all washed away. The forests are gone in just 50 years or so. It's mind-boggling to think that nature took billions of years to get to these numbers of wildlife and of plants, and we take just 50 years to completely exterminate them. So looking at all that, I think it's not that human beings have faced a unusual, abnormal situation. Actually, human beings were in an unusual, abnormal acceleration of their growth, and other living beings were in a very abnormal, unusual situation of destruction. So I hope that COVID teaches us to live in a more simple and nature-friendly way. Already we are seeing in different parts of the world, in different cities, if you look at New Delhi, the rivers are sparkling away again. Yamuna is clean again. Air is so clean that you can see the Himalayas from the plains. Air is, breathed by not us humans alone. We are killing ourselves. Every year, some 7 to 10 million people die of air pollution alone. Not just COVID, air pollution, our own doing, a part of our growth, kills roughly 7 to 10 million people. And I later found out that this figure is similar to World War II. World War II and one, similar number of people were killed. So in a way, we had waged a war against nature. I sometimes call it the Third World War. Third World War was waged not between nations, but between nations and nature. So it was an era of destruction and damage to all beings on the planet. Now with COVID, we see healing. Healing. I'm sad to see that there are many people who are afflicted with the disease, but you can also see the healing of the rest of nature, how other animals are able to breathe again. They are now moving around freely in their habitats. The air is cleaner for them to breathe. So in a way, it's not only, bad news. In a way, I want to see it as a good wake up call to the human race that you cannot blow up the planet and the right of other beings in your growth. So that way, I think this COVID will teach us to live in a more sustainable, more friendly way towards all the lives on the planet. And we have learned many interesting things also during the COVID period, that it does not take so much material and, consumption and so on. We can be happy with much less. More important is our family, our community, relationships, bonding of human to human and other beings, and not just the rat race that we were in, where parents wouldn't see their children, children wouldn't care about their parents, husbands, wives would not even know what the other is going through, and kind of mad race. And suddenly we feel good that we have some time. Actually, this slowing down has given many people time to think about who they are, where they are going. So it's not all so very bad. For nature, definitely not. It's a healing shot in the arms for nature, because human beings had sort of hijacked the whole planet for itself alone. Now, talking of the post-COVID era, some people might feel insecure and not so happy about what life will be after COVID. But I really think that we don't have much to fear. We can be happy with so much less, so much less. It's just that we were having a big party at the cost of tomorrow. We were eating up what was for next generations. We were blowing up, firing up all resources like there is no tomorrow. So to wake up, to come out of the inebriation or the drunken state is actually a wake up. And a wake up is a good thing to the realities of what the planet is and how we must survive and live and let live. So in a way, it is a wake up for us. And yes, it really does not take so much material goods for us to be living happily, is what we should learn from the COVID. Unfortunately, we in India had forgotten our ancient philosophies and the ethos that our ancestors gave, which was world leading at one point. That's why from India, Hinduism, Buddhism went all over the world. But somewhere down the line, we lost our way and we started chasing the Western model of happiness, as if happiness was only from material goods, consumption, and production. Our Indian ethos was not like that. It was more towards minimalism. When Buddha said, today we think that achievers are those who have 5 cars and 6 bungalows, buildings, and so many properties and so on. But Buddha 2005 years ago said that for a human being, it is a bigger achievement to conquer a single desire than to fulfill 1,000 desires. Conquer a single desire is greater than fulfilling desires. And look at this. Today, we are all about fulfilling desires. The one who has fulfilled more desires is seen as more successful. But then there is no end to desires. Our religions, our teachers of the past saw that, and that's why they said it's more important to conquer desires than to fulfill. But the West didn't understand. They went for fulfilling desires as a source of happiness. And then what happens is that after the 1000th desire, it does not end. It actually begins. Then you have the 1050th and 1000 and 500th and so on. It never ends. Whereas if we are able to conquer desires, then we can be so happy. With so little, you can be rich. So to me, the richest in the world is not the one who has $100 billion worth. No, he is poor if he is still in need of another $100 billion, then he's $100 billion away from happiness. Whereas somebody who says, I don't need any more, I have 3 meals a day, I don't need any more, is the richest person by far. And that's the path I think we should take. And that's the culture. Talking of, nature and culture, that's the culture we should imbibe from our ancestors and spread it to the world. We don't need to, follow whatever comes from London or New York. It's now time, because what they gave to the world has landed us in such mess. Look at all the, I told you the destruction of nature, but much bigger things are coming. For example, the climate change. Here in Ladakh, the glaciers are melting. And over there by the coastlines, your sea level is rising. Where are we headed to? If not COVID, which is again a problem. And I used to say this very often, that the way we are urbanizing, huge urban, megalopolises, is not going to work. I used to say that there will be some pandemic that will wipe out half the population when you are packed like, can of fish in these big cities. Nature didn't mean for us to live like that in congested cities. That's what is happening in all the congested cities. There is a big issue. So if we lived more in harmony with nature, more sustainably spread out in the rural areas, we would be less affected. Today, the rural areas are having a smile for a change about their life. And it is the big metros who are suffering the most, whether in India or other countries. So therefore, this model had some problems, and we need to borrow from our culture. And for those people who say we don't really believe in religions and philosophies and teachers of the past, I want to tell them that even your modern economics, somewhere hidden, has similar philosophies. For those who are in commerce or business and economics, you would know the law of diminishing returns. It's a beautiful law. The law of diminishing returns says that when you get your first pair of shoes, and you were walking on thorns and gravels, it was very uncomfortable, and you get your first pair of shoes, amazing satisfaction, so much satisfaction from that one pair of shoes. But when you get your second pair of shoes, the utility, the value has diminished. Third pair, you're really not so excited. By fourth pair, okay, it has come nice. Fifth pair, sixth pair, and some of us may have 11th and 21st pair of shoes. It hardly gives us any satisfaction, yet it causes as much destruction to resources and nature. Now, if that 21st pair of shoes, which means nothing for you, you decide to give it to a person who has not even a single pair of shoes, imagine the amount of satisfaction again. That pair of shoes gives absolute satisfaction to that person, and to you it does not. So this is a wake-up call that it should not be about us amassing things and goods and consumeristic, mindless pursuits. So I don't say that you stop working or earning money after your third or fourth pair of shoes, because after that you don't get satisfaction. I say that we should take it forward, a new culture of you keep continuing working like you were, but not for yourself. You give the 10th and the 15th and the 21st pair of shoes to those who don't have their first ones, and you will feel so much more happiness than the richest man in the world. So that's the kind of culture we need to promote in the post-COVID area. No mindless consumerism, no blowing up of resources on the planet like there is no tomorrow. Take what is good and important for you, know that there is an enough, know the limits of what you want, and be happy with that, and help others have, those who do not have. Our success should be not just about what we did for ourselves, but after we did for ourselves and our immediate family, what we did for others on the planet, which need not be only human beings, which should be other living beings like animals, plants, and the rest of nature with rivers, mountains, oceans. If we all can live happily, that's what Vasudeva Kutumbakam, where everybody is in harmony like a family with humans, nature, and the natural scenarios, all of them interdependently happy. So that's a kind of world I would hope emerges out of this pandemic. I hope that it will leave a lot of lessons, and not just pain of disease, but rather it will change the way we see development, the way we see happiness, and how we derive it. As for education, again, our education was becoming like a ritual, a mindless ritual, where you send your children to an institution and they do this ritual of paper, pencil, lectures, or chalk talk kind of education, and really come out handicapped. I call it handicap because products of our education system were just good at theory and at writing answers, but not at solving problems, not at solving their own problems or other people's problems, doing things with their hands. They were very poor. Just lectures they would hear and theory they would write in the paper. So that needs to change. And again, COVID has shown us that so much can be done digitally, online. So much can be done digitally. All of what our schools were doing, lectures and examinations, those can easily be done online. Actually, much better online than our schools. So even before COVID, the time for our conventional school had come, was over. Time was over is what I used to say, because our children today can find much better lectures on YouTube than our own teacher, who just brings some old yellow pale notes from last year and switches on like a tape recorder. Not fun and nothing new. So it was becoming obsolete anyway. Now all such lectures and concepts can be better done online. You have the best of brains in the world on video, on YouTube and all the internet. You can learn to them 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. If you don't understand, you don't have to fear that the teacher will be angry if you ask twice or thrice. You can watch them 100 times So they are actually much better than our old teachers. So does that mean that our teachers and our schools are defunct and not needed now? No, definite big no. I think schools will always be needed, but for a very, very different purpose. And thankfully so. COVID has fast forwarded that process, that all these lectures, let's do online. Even after COVID is 100% gone, I think that tomorrow's education will be lectures online, still online. If it is photosynthesis you want to learn, you would watch all kinds of videos and not go to school to listen to that not so eloquent teacher with a very old, notes. You would rather look up on the best online courses. So your concept you can get much better online. But is that enough? Definitely not. That's enough for what schools used to be, but not enough for what schools need to be. So schools will be needed even more, but nobody will go to schools for the lecture. They'll go to schools for application, for experiential education. If you go in Indian tradition, there's a pragya. Pragya is wisdom or knowledge. There are three of them, they say. Shrutmai pragya, the wisdom of listening. Shrutmai pragya you get from the lecture of a teacher, and you can even better get it from YouTube or internet. Then that's not a problem. Shrutmai pragya, there's even more of abundance of it now. Then there is Chintanmay pragya. So reflection, that of reflection, that you could partly get from this, but partly a teacher can guide you to develop an analytical mind, a questioning mind, to understand and question every concept. There you may need teachers. But the most important, teachers become for the third wisdom, Bhavanamay pragya. Bhavanamay is experiential wisdom, where the wisdom is completely absorbed in you. That cannot happen online. So you would go to school to touch the plant. You want to go to school to see the sun hit the leaf if you are learning photosynthesis, and feel it happen, how the roots take off and the leaves unfurl. All that cannot happen online. So to sow a seed and make it happen, and schools will change from lectures to doing. It will be the way you learn, by hands-on application of what is in the theory, which was in the lecture online. But now how does that apply to make a solution to the challenges of people? For example, if people in Ladakh are living in cold winters, how do you apply conduction, convection, radiation in 8th grade heat chapter to actually make a house that is warm in winters? So this cannot be done online. This has to be contact with real teacher and real building blocks, bricks and mortar and mud and so on. That is where schools will play a very important role in tomorrow's education. So all in all, I think schools' role will change, and change for good. Thanks for all these upheavals, that our schools may become more real, and for children to meet other children and make teams to find solutions. Schools will be about finding solutions, not about memorizing theory of some writer who wrote, and you have to vomit the same way. You can say it in 100 different ways, but it should be applicable to solve different challenges. Now, at this point, I'll share with you some examples of what I mean from my journey in Ladakh, what we have been doing already for the last 2 decades or so, of schools where children actually do things, run things, They are not passive listeners. They are not problems to be, solved and moved around. They are partners of making things work, and not problems to be managed by teachers and grown-ups. So I'll here try and have some images. Let's see. Please give me feedback if they play. I'll try to share my screen with some images. Let's see if I can. Just a minute. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Okay, please give me feedback when I say, can you see my screen? Huh? I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my picture image? Hello.
No, sir, we cannot see it as yet.
Okay, you cannot see. You still see me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sure you have had enough of me. Let me.
No, sir, everyone's waiting for you to go on, sir. They're really enjoying the session.
I'm trying to see if I can. Okay. So no screen sharing still?
No, your screen
Yes.
sharing is here, sir. Please.
Yes, it is there. Yes.
Yes, you can see the image.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in Ladakh, we were, when I finished my engineering, during my engineering, I developed an interest in education system, because to support my engineering education, I started teaching students in 10th grade. And in those days of Ladakh, a lot of failure was commonplace in Ladakh, because in the mountains, so high up, what you have in textbooks didn't make sense. They were all about elephants and tigers, and here we are in cold place with nothing relevant in the textbooks. So after helping the system in the government schools to improve failure, we were able to improve failure from 95% failure and 5% success to 75% success. But 25% were still failing. So at that point, we said, let's set up a very different school for these students who are rejected by the system. They are not really failures. The system is failing in recognizing their way of learning. If they don't learn the way you teach, then teach them the way they learn. And they don't learn the pen, paper, words way, they learn experientially by doing things. So with a batch of failures, we went to this desert. You can see here, this desert is no more like this desert here, but it is a picture from 94 on the Indus River, as you can see. And we started working together with the students there. We pitched tents. We moved there in tents. And then together with the students, we conceived, what kind of school do we want? How do we design the school? Well, you want it warm in winter. So how about using the sun? Where is the sun in winter? What is the sun path? From east to west or southeast to southwest? All this was geography. So using geography, you learned how to make use of the sun and application of geography happen. Similarly, how do the winds blow? If it blows from the western side, let's plant trees so that the winds, cold winds are broken. So likewise, students drew this artistic impression as their, report and project on how the school should be, and almost to the script. In the next 5 years, they built this school. This is a very interesting school and a unique school. To begin with, the admission criteria here is not positions and distinctions, but rather that you have failed in the system. So failures are given preference in this school. And they have then used their hands and learned their theory, both hands and mind, to make this drawing and imagination into reality. So this is a school where sun powers the entire school. The energy, almost 100%, comes from nothing but the sun. So it is an autonomous zero energy campus already in 99, when these terms were not even, coined. So this is the school. And here, the students run the school. It's not just that they designed and they built the school, they also run. They come as failures, but they get all opportunities to, hone their skills. So to learn management and to build confidence, they run the school themselves. Like a little country, they'll run it, because they finally have to be in the real life. So they run it as a little country with a little government and a little parliament. So here you can see the students in the parliament are holding their first meeting, the elected leaders, not the parliament, and they execute the projects on the school for 2 months. The term is 2 months, a micro parliament with a micro term. And then at the end, they have to make presentations of their work and be answerable to the public. The elected leaders take serious responsibilities, like all the cows that give all the milk on the campus is taken care by the students. And while taking care of cows, they learn, for example, animal health or mathematics, particularly statistics, and they track each cow, their productivity in different months, and make bar charts, pie charts, etc., and learn statistics. Similarly, solar gadgets that do cooking are maintained and operated by the students. Others take care of the organic farming, and they produce vegetables which they sell to the school kitchen. But when they sell, they use a selling price. Then they work back to find the cost price and practically learn that profit is equal to selling price minus cost price, not just as a theory, but an experience. Other students take care of the power plants and greenhouses. They use microbial germ theory in practice to prolong the shelf life of fruits like apricots, who go bad in 1 week. And with this technique of making jam and juice, they can keep it for 2 years. And many of the students meet their passion careers along the way. Some of them have, you can see, become startup companies that produce jam and juice and pulp for industry in the whole country. Others have started travel companies with their experience of handling visitors to the school. Others add value to their local products and so on. Similarly, you can see how the solar heated buildings work. Now, here comes the science chapter from 9th grade, alive. Normally, we learn conduction, convection, radiation, memorize them, pass the exams, and forget it all. But here you can see that in the building on the left, there is a plastic transparent film that comes down in winters. And in winters, as you can see at the bottom here, the sun heats the film, air inside the film, and that rises and lifts up. That's convection. And goes inside, gives its heat to the walls, becomes cool and dense. That's convection. And is pushed into the greenhouse again. The cycle repeats all day. That's convection, bringing heat of the sun into the house through the windows, which are opened by the students in the morning and closed in the evening as their responsibility. Similarly, conduction. The sun's rays hit the southern wall and the heat is conducted molecule to molecule and reaches inside the room at night, by night. When all windows are closed, radiation takes over. The heat is radiated by the walls and people keep warm without any motors, heaters, electricity or bills to pay or pollution to face. That's beautiful way of solving a real life challenge using your school chapters. So that's how the chapters themselves become unforgettable. Rather than scolding the students for forgetting their lessons, the lessons become unforgettable. Similarly, above you see they are building the house with mud, earth, which is right under your feet and free and abundant. So nobody is poor to afford a house. So that's how they build. And this comes from our ancestors, this art of building with soil or mud, which is very abundant in Africa and India. Actually, these should be the capital of earth architecture, India and Africa. But unfortunately, there's hardly any architecture college or university that teaches this craft, even though 50% of India's population live in earth buildings. There's 0% that teaches the craft. So we really need to rethink the way forward for us. Why should we use cement and concrete when we don't even need it for most houses that are 1 story, 2 story? Mud is such a beautiful thing. Keeps warm in winter, cool in summer. So we learned from our ancestors, from buildings that are 1,500 years old. We reverse engineered and learned what our ancestors did very well back then. So this is how life at our school campus is. Ultra modern or post-modern buildings in the background you can see. I call it post-modern because it is beyond modern. You don't use any moving machines or sources of energy that are, depletable. You use the sun and you use the earth as a material, and you live as comfortably as people in New York may think they are very, modern to be doing it. But they cause so much pollution. In fact, the housing industry causes more pollution than the automobile industry. And here's a way of living where you don't pollute at all and live happily. And in front, you see the students using ancient techniques like using animals to farm. They learn farming hands-on in the school. The school is not disconnected from soil and farming. It is respected as a skill to learn. And why not? So beautiful it is that the animals are fed what comes from the farm, and animals waste or dung is a food for the farm because it is manure. So it's a perfect cycle that goes on and on, indefinitely sustainable. Whereas if you brought a tractor here, the tractor will ask for diesel, and for diesel you don't have money, so you take loans, you can't pay, so you commit suicide. And it doesn't give manure, it gives polluting, toxic smoke. So why should we give up such beautiful, simple lifestyle just because London or New York goes astray, loses their path, and then tells us that this is the way to live? So here at our school, we say, live simply so that others may simply live, like Gandhiji said. So last year, we even launched a global movement called the I Live Simply movement. And COVID has been like a big accelerator for that. People had to live simpler now. So when you live in a way that you really use minimal resources, you are living happily and you are letting others live happily. So to learn more about how to live simply, there's a fun website called ilivesimply.org. ilivesimply.org. This is a global movement we launched from Ladakh. I appeal to you to look it up and make your pledges. It's full of pledges about saving the planet and living happily. So I will stop here, and I think we should go for more interaction because there are many stories and lot of pictures. So I'll maybe stop here and come back to you. Yeah. So in a nutshell, I think COVID is not the worst thing to happen, We just have to adapt our lives and make it into an opportunity, make it into an awakening call, an alarm call, and think that I really didn't need all that. I can live as happily, or actually even more happily, with much less. We were in an unnatural state before COVID. Now we can be in a natural, happy state. This is the attitude I would like to for the world to have, and live happily and let others live happily. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanchuk, for addressing this pressing issue and throwing light on COVID-19 and the changes that we see around us and what maybe the future holds for us. Now, I would like to invite questions from our participants. And as we had said earlier, to make this questioning session run smoothly, please, students can address their questions to Tanmay and the others can write to me. Thank you.
Sir, we have a few questions from a few students, so I'll just begin with them. So our first question, uh, so today there are about 7.5 billion people alive, and that is a massive number. And just to accommodate the needs of these beings, we require a vast amount of resources. We do agree that there has to be a reduction of use of resources by humans, but in which area should there be concentrated reduction so as to keep a balance between the need and the resources available to us?
Thank you. So let's remember Gandhiji again, who said there is enough on this planet for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. So we are really talking about our greed and not really need. When we fear that there is not enough, what do you need? How much do you need? 3 meals a day. You won't be eating 9 or 27 meals a day if you became 5 times richer. 3 pairs of shoes. Yeah, well made craftsmen who make nice, beautiful shoes we could wear. Why do we need 20 or 30 pairs of cheap Chinese shoes or something to clutter our houses? Today, the problem is that a small percentage, maybe 20% of the world's population, has more goods than what 80% has. So they have 40 pairs of shoes, which they don't even look at. They don't get time to look at. So there should be more wisdom. We should, evolve. We should evolve. From monkeys, we evolve to human beings. From human beings, we should evolve to enlightened human beings. Human beings who think that it's a sin to keep more than 5 pairs of shoes, because there are so many who don't have their first pair of shoes. So if this world was more wise and more equitable, where is the problem? This 20% has 80% resources, and the 80% has 20% of the resources. If we just optimize it, and then everybody has enough for their need, so that there's not few who keep fulfilling their greed, and there is many who don't even fulfill their need. So that's the way we should go, and that's what our schools should teach. That's what our religions teach us. So we should bring back that kind of rich heritage of wisdom that India has and give it to the world. You in your parts of the world should, spread these ideologies as the foundations of grooming human beings, which is what education is all about.
Thank you, sir. And the next question is, our education system in India is more theoretically oriented and places importance on rote learning and cramming with information, but disregards practical knowledge. So, what are your suggestions about some reforms that need to be implemented in India's education system?
So, India's ancient education system, I think, was very holistic. It was not just theoretical. You know, when you say theoretical, it's all head alone, thinking, theory, and so on. And truly, the Western model says 3 R's, 3 R's of education. 3 R's meaning reading, writing, and arithmetic. They are all theoretical, only to do with the head. Whereas what we say in Ladakh, inspired by what we have in India, is 3 H's rather than 3 R's. 3 H's being, yes, head, bright head is important, but then skilled hands that can do anything to solve anything. But that also is not enough. Only head and hands can be very dangerous, as is becoming. It's skilled people who rob banks and who, blow up twin towers and so on. And it's sharp and skilled people. But we say the kind heart. As long as we have the kind heart, our hands and head will always be used for good purposes to help people. So that's the kind of reform we should get in our schooling system, not just bring in the experiential hands part, but go all the way to bring the compassionate heart part also. So schools that have theory, very good as now, or even better, because theory backed by practice is unforgettable. So where hands there are. So I always say, like coming down to ground, I say that all schools should have gardens, kitchen gardens. The children should be growing their own, vegetables for the lunch. In the ground, if you don't have ground, on the roof, the roofs can have beautiful gardens also, so that each class has a little bed garden that produces, salads or whatever. Similarly, they could practice in the school various things, keeping clean. Why should there be people, cleaning and washing the bathrooms and corridors? Why not students? Students have hands, and a sense of cleanliness comes when they start doing the work themselves. In Japanese schools, I'm told, always students clean the washrooms and restrooms and so on. So have students do things to run the school, to keep it neat, tidy, to manage the school. School management should be actually students at the forefront and teachers in the background. That's when students take ownership of their school. They are no longer problems to be fixed, the students. They are your partners. So make the students partners and make them run most of the school. Like I gave the example, it will be easy for the teachers, and so much learning and experience and practice, sort of internship for the students. Otherwise, they just go out handicapped, not knowing anything about how to fix. They could be cooking. The school lunch could be made by the students in turn, and they get to try their hands, and some may develop interest and take it very far. You don't know. So all such things should also happen in schools, and not just lectures. And I hope lectures will happen more online.
Thank you, sir. One more question. Have you planned on opening more branches of your school in India, or taking any online courses for the benefit of students who are not in Ladakh and interested in learning and gaining experience from you?
Well, maybe for some very specific things online, because that takes care of distance. But otherwise, we are not about opening schools in other places. It's not for me to open a school like this in, Guwahati or Lagos. It's more for passionate people from Lagos or, wherever, Abu Dhabi or Cochin or places, to do it themselves. But yes, where we can play a role is in sharing experiences, in what works, what doesn't work, more importantly, what doesn't work. So towards that, we are now setting up an alternative university. And in that university, our education school, or the School of Education, will have modules for passionate people who want to start similar schools in their areas, to come, study, understand, discuss, and go back and start these. So our model will be helping people do it themselves. If each person takes care of their part of the world, the planet will take care of itself.
Yes, thank you, sir. And the next question is, we have developed technology as an aid and a tool for mankind to utilize and progress. However, technology is often used for destructive uses, whether it be in the forms of bombs or even polluting automobiles. So the question is, how do we ensure that we take proper steps to ensure a balance between progress and preservation of nature while using technology?
Very good question, but the answer is simple. Execution is more important than the answer. Answer is that our education system should have it inbuilt. It should not be about, this is so exciting in physics, this is so exciting in chemistry, appealing to our monkey minds to make things, but not telling them what not to do and how to make best solutions and not create more problems than there are solutions. So our education should be about what to do and what not to do. In other words, ethics. Ethics should be a very strong part of our school system. I'm very happy that in engineering colleges, I'm happy that during my engineering, we had in the first year humanities, ethics and sociology and all that. And it was so important because otherwise you can imagine what monster like engineers would do to the world. So they had inbuilt it to contain these tendencies. Similarly, in our schools, there should be as much on what we better not do than just what we can do. So life is more about knowing what not to do, even if you can do. That's a monkey mind, you do whatever you can. You can produce green goats and red horses, so you do that. What's the point? That's the wisdom. That is also what the school should give.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to ask Mrs. Mitra to continue. And thank you so much for your information. And we have all enjoyed all the thoughts that you've given us today.
Sir, there are some participants who would like to ask you some question. The first question is, healthcare institutes, they require low cost and innovative ventilators and support for the critical patients. So what advice would you give to our young IIT engineers to design something in India rather than importing these machines from, like US or Europe? What is the way forward for a newer healthcare technology?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in this field, but I would say think from first principles of what exactly is needed and not go into what they have done in the US or they have done in Europe. See what India is and what simplest solutions can work. So based on that, solutions that are affordable, solutions that are practical, solutions that are local should be adopted. I wouldn't know more, but maybe there could be solutions about how the community comes together to take care of people who are sick and not leave it to them, like many times it happens in many countries. So a community support system could also go along with physical contraptions. Yeah, something like that, I would say.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Someone would like to know if your school has any short-term course for external students, or do you plan to have one in the future?
Our school is only for local students who have problems in exams, but we are now working on an alternative university which has online courses also, but it is mostly for mountain focus, because mountains of the world do not get addressed by the mainstream flow of progress and solutions. So our school and the university also is about how to solve challenges of mountain people, assuming that other places are doing well enough to solve their own problems. So if it is about around mountain tourism, mountain agriculture, mountain water solutions, then we are running online courses also, but not for general conditions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Please unmute, madam. Please unmute. Your mic is muted.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Someone would like to know what changes can we make in our daily lives to achieve sustainability?
For that, I would again urge you to go to ilivesimply.org and play the game there. There'll be a lot of ways that it says to become, sustainable in your lifestyle. But just starting with simplicity. Simplicity is the biggest sophistication, they say. You really don't have to make your life very complicated with all kinds of things and gadgets and so on. Just living simply, and more details you can find there. I wouldn't like to take a long amount of time here.
Okay, sir. So the next question what are some of the challenges you think the next generation will face depending on our current situation?
Exactly, depending on our current situation. If things goes as usual, if business goes as usual, I don't know if there will be a next generation. If you have runaway climate change, everything will fail. Your water system will fail, your agriculture will fail, and there'll be fires everywhere. And some scenarios say that the 7.5 billion people might become 2 billion people or so, which means massive destruction and death, even by the end of this century. So depending on what happens is a very important point you said. If we wake up to the wake up call given by COVID or other signs that we are seeing in climate change, the melting glaciers, polar, gas leaks and so on. And if we mend our ways, if we simplify our lives, then there's some hope for the next generation. So hopefully we'll evolve beyond making and using goods to living life. So that's the only hope, that we don't do all these things that we don't need to.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I think Tanmay would like to ask you one final question.
Sir, we had a question from a student, and he was asking where you had pursued your education from.
Oh, many places, but more important is that I didn't go to a school till about 9 years of age. I was in my little village with 5 households and therefore had no school. And I don't regret that. I was lucky to have no school. And I say it's always better to have no schools than to have bad schools. Yeah. So I kept learning from my mother, from my surroundings, from my neighbors, from the animals. And I often tease that when you all were learning about plants and roots and shoots from pages or faded pages of a textbook, I was on the farm putting a seed down and seeing roots go down, shoots come up, and leaves unfurl without having to bother about LEAF, leaf, LEAVES, leaf. All these complications that are not knowledge, that are not education, that is just some alien language we have chosen and therefore we pay the price. But real knowledge is the process that you absorb, and that I was happy to be able to do. But after that I went to various schools in Srinagar, in Delhi also for some time, and finally I did my engineering from National Institute of Technology in Srinagar. And then later I did earth architecture in France.
So, sir, what would be your advice to the parents to allow the children to follow their passion? and learn by doing?
Yeah, I think we should open our minds and think that, we artificially think of some things as good and other things as bad. There's nothing that is good, particularly. There's nothing that is bad. To become a farmer, some parents will be shocked, but if they stop producing food, you can imagine what yours will be. So every occupation is very respectable. If your child is passionate about growing food, then let them become a great farmer, an innovative farmer. Chances are they'll be the best farmer in the world because they have passion behind it. If they are happy being a carpenter, let them be. If they can bring art into woodwork and become the most celebrated carpenter in the world. But by making all the farmers and the carpenters and the painters all to become engineers, we get horrible engineers. A painter who has become an engineer, or a farmer who has become an engineer and has pushed a real engineer from becoming engineer because they cracked the multiple choice questions in IIT better, and the one who had real engineering aptitude was pushed to become a clerk, and the worst clerk in the world.
Yes.
So you get the worst engineer, the worst clerk, and the worst farmer when you don't let people follow their best passion.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering our questions. Any concluding remarks from you, sir, about the session?
No, I think I've said a lot. Just bring a few things in real life, and hopefully, we can change a few things. Yeah, I wish you all the best.
A great thank you, sir, for taking out your valuable time and sharing with us your amazing and eye-opening thoughts. And we all are thrilled. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure, sir. And I would now like to call upon Sabha coordinator, Mr. Ramesh Biswal, to brief us about the Sabha activities and webinars in the near future.
Thank you, Tanmay. Let me first thank our guest speaker, honorable speaker, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. We really thrilled and we really enjoyed with your sharing of webinars. Really, it is an excellent session we had. On behalf of Sabha, we really appreciate on behalf of Indian community. Thank you, sirs. Let me come to Sabha. All of us must be knowing here, but for benefit of everybody, Sabha is an organization of all Indian Samajams in Nigeria and all organizations of Indian origin in Nigeria came together to serve the community in Nigeria. So Sabha has taken the initiatives, at least for this COVID initiatives. There are two initiatives. One is the setting of one hospitals or isolation centers in association with Indo Eye Care Foundations, which is almost concluded with the support of all Indian communities, their undivided and unconditional support. We have completed the isolation centers in all respects. As informed to all of you, it was ready to deliver last week to the MOH and NCDC. Unfortunately, it has been delayed, but we have got in contact through our some senior leaders of Indian communities, and we are getting the feedback. They will be taking the hospitals very shortly in these coming weeks. So all the dream of Indian community to serve the Nigerian community and to the Indian community will be coming true and also coming to achieve very shortly within the coming weeks. So this is related to our past initiatives. Thank you all the supporters of these objectives. Second one, I wanted to come about the webinar initiatives, which is the awareness, creating awareness amongst the Indian community, which we had today. It is the 13th webinar. About 14th and 15th webinar, we are inviting Mr. Sivkhera, one of the management guru and also educator. About that, I'll request Pavin Kumarji, he is our Sabha coordinator, to show you the updates on the webinars. Pravin Kumarji, I'll request you to update, please.
Thank you, sir. Take this opportunity to inform all of you that the 14th webinar, let me show the chart. So please give me 2 minute time.
Mhm.
1 minute, please, sir. We have just shared this one to the yesterday for the update of the Sabha, and there is a problem. Sir, screen is visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay, okay, okay. So, our next upcoming webinar on 12th of July. 12th of July today we have done with Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, and our next webinar is on 19th of July with Mr. Sanyukt. The topic is turn setback into comeback, and the 15th webinar is going to be held on 26th of July with a panel of doctors with live questions answer and with them. So we have three doctors, Mr. Sasi, Mr. Subhasji, and Mr. Chitra, Madam Chitra. So three doctors are in the panel. So I would request to the diaspora to take their questions, and we can connect with them for this. So these are the planned webinar in the coming future day.
Thank you, Pravinji. Can you just share the message of Mr. Sivkhera ji, what he has given the message to the Indian community? So just if you can just play that one for 1 minute, then I'll request our Sonam Wangchuk ji just to wait 2 minutes, sir. We'll have an formal appreciation, words of appreciation to you, sir. Please, 2 minutes, sir. Pravinji, please that one. Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm trying to connect this one.
Sir, meanwhile, we had another question, and people were asking about the details of the ice stupa and how you made it, and could you please share some light on it?
I don't think it can be done in such short time, but there are many videos. You look up on YouTube Ice Stupa, and there'll be videos that will do better job than I can do now in 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So a screen is visible, sir?
Yeah, it is clear, sir.
Okay, sir. So 1 minute, sir.
My name is Shiv Khera. I'm looking forward to a webinar being organized by Sabha, an organization of Indians in Nigeria, on July 19th at 3:30 West African time and 8 p.m. at Indian Standard Time. The topic is going to be how to turn a setback into a comeback. We will cover how do we cope with the current crisis, how do we prepare to succeed and win, and how do we motivate ourselves and others. I look forward to seeing you on July 19th at 3:30 p.m. at West African time and 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Look forward.
Thank you, Pravinji, for sharing this one. Once again, I'll request all the participants here to join on 19th for Mr. Shivkara. He's very good author and bestseller of 8 million books sold. And also he's a management guru and business consultants. I request all the platforms, all the Indian communities, including ICA, IPF and IWA. And also this talk will be specially for the children's educators, educationists, and also parents, everybody to attend this one. So please attend this one on 19th. Thank you, everybody, please. This is the updates of the Sabha as of today. We'll try and make aware amongst all Indian communities to bring all new normals through this webinar to all of you, sir. Thank you. Over to our moderators. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sonam Vanchuk, for coming here and delivering your speech. May I please ask the Sabha coordinator, Mr. Praveen Kumar, to deliver his vote of thanks.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Tanmay. It is my proud privilege to express vote of thanks on behalf of Sanyukt Bhartiya Association Sabha. I welcome all of you once again to the Sabha platform to hear the people's webinar from the real life hero, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, essentially for last 1.5 hours more. Thank you for your patience and enthusiasm. First of all, start by giving glory to the Almighty God for inspiring us to organize such events, such webinar for in this pandemic time. On behalf of Sabha, I express our gratitude to our Deputy High Commissioner of India, Shri D.L. Surendraji, to give us the time from his busy schedule. On behalf of Sabha and entire Indian community, I record our deep sense, appreciation and gratitude to Sri Sonam Wangchuk for his insightful session on the topic post-COVID changes in nature, culture and education for community progress. Really, it is an amazing session and worth to take away. On behalf of Sabha, I record our sincere gratitude to Principal Indian Language School, President of Indian Culture Association, Indian Professional Forum, Indian Women's Association, all representatives of corporate houses, our mentors, our working committee members, and our President of all Samajes and Indian origin organization. I also thank Madam Sudeepa Raj Mitra and our lovely child Tanmay Pilla, head of Indian Language School, for being moderator of this session of this webinar. Thank you, Madam Mitra. Thank you, Tanmay, ILS alumni and ILS student who is participating here. You know, the people awareness program like this will not happen overnight. The wheel start rolling weeks ago. It's required planning and bird eye for all details. We have been fortunate to be backed with a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues and supporting organizations. I thanks everyone, including our member, Mr. Tarun Sangviji, for extending their willingness to undertake various responsibility for making this event a success. I thanks all participant guests and invitee for showing their interest to participate our webinar continuously. Once again, thank you very much to all who assembled here from Nigeria, from India, and other part of globe on Zoom meeting and YouTube live. Today we have here 400 plus participant on the Zoom meeting, and similarly 400 plus participant on YouTube. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen Kumar. I also like to thank Mr. Vanchuk once again for enlightening us. I thank the distinguished guests and the participants for this wonderful session.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Sabha extends its sincere gratitudes, appreciations, and your time, valuable things. Thank you, sirs. Thank you, Sonamji. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. बंद करता हूँ।
I think meeting is over and I am going to close the window. Hello. Hello.